Hey guys, what's going on? Paul here. Welcome back to another Cardano video. So today I got to have a chat with Ryan from Orbis, which is building a layer 2 scaling solution for Cardano using ZK rollups. So Ryan is also the CEO of Ardana, and I have had him on the channel before, so lots of you will be familiar with him. When I heard that they were building using rollups, it's a call I was looking forward to because I've seen a lot of extremely smart people in the crypto space talk about rollups being the future for multiple different blockchains out there when it comes to scalability. So the call is just an audio podcast, but I will leave links to some of these resources down below. If you look, their website isn't fully up yet, but there is a deck here that goes through all of the different, I suppose, the high level of what this is going to be and how it's going to work, architecture, technology, also with the solution they're building. So Cardano will be the layer 1 solution, Orbis then will be layer 2. But there is going to be so much potential to build out layer 3s and 4s on top of this as well for individual projects or applications that all will eventually come back down to Cardano and have the security and safety of the Cardano blockchain as the main L1 for all of this. So they also have a proposal in for Catalyst, which I will leave a link to down below as well, and you get more details on the project there. And as things progress, as we get more information, I will share it out as well. So if you're new, subscribe, leave a comment below with any questions, give the video a like, and let's jump into it. Hey guys, what's going on? Paul here. Welcome back to another Cardano video. And today I have Ryan from Orbis, which is going to be a scaling solution for Cardano. So Ryan, you're very welcome back onto the channel. I've had you on before talking about Ardana, but thanks for taking the time to come on.
Pleasure to be here, Paul.
I suppose just for anyone who hasn't heard, I'd say most people have, but do you want to give a 60-second where you fit into all of this?
Yeah. So I've been in the space since 2015. I got involved at quite a young age, and that was on a few of the early projects experimenting with smart contracts and Ethereum. So that was where I got my initial experience, right up to 2017. And then, as Cardano was launching, getting involved in the community where I could was my focus. Outside of blockchain, had a short stint as a front-end developer, and really my experience centers around working in blockchain and DeFi projects in various different roles, from marketing to strategy to project development and also leadership. One of the projects building on Cardano, Ardana, is a project that I founded and led, and is currently in development and building, looking forward to launching on Cardano mainnet, its stablecoin ecosystem, Ardana, and now onto Orbis, which has been in development for some time now, a few months, but we've been building in stealth. So Orbis is another focus for myself, which is really contributing to infrastructure and scaling infrastructure on Cardano. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah, so anyone who follows the channel will know I've been a big fan of Ardana from, we had a call very early on with Ardana, and it's one I always tell people to look at because there's going to be so many possibilities, I think, over the next few years, what can be built on top of it. But coming on to Orbis then, can you explain what it is, or why do we need something like Orbis instead of just Cardano is L1 and everything is on L1? Why is something like Orbis important?
To get into the importance of Orbis, we kind of have to take a step back and think of blockchain systems at the base layer, layer ones. Now, blockchains are a cooperation or coordination of independent actors in a decentralized system working together to reach consensus on transactions coming in. This is how Cardano works, and the stake pools and the stake pool operators and the delegators as well, delegating to those stake pools, play a role in Cardano's consensus and the actual blockchain operating where we can send transactions back and forth. But what we've realized in the space is that there are technical limitations to the capabilities of a layer one blockchain. And there's a trilemma, the blockchain trilemma that we speak about, which is really the compromise between three aspects: decentralization, scalability, and security. And it's these three aspects which are the key things of how blockchain systems work. And it's very difficult to create a layer one blockchain that can excel in all three of these verticals. So we have blockchains, like Cardano itself, which is highly secure. One of, if not the most secure blockchains. This focus on formal verification has given us, the right, to say that, we have proof, of how the blockchain works. So we're doing well on the security side of things. On the decentralization side of things, a huge stake pool community, lots of delegates, distributed, lots of nodes located globally as well, all coordinating as independent actors in this system. Cardano is a highly decentralized, one of the most decentralized blockchains. So in terms of security and decentralization, Cardano is doing amazingly well. When it comes to scalability, Cardano doesn't necessarily lag behind, but in comparison to its decentralization and security, the scalability is not up to the point where it can support a global financial ecosystem. If we focused on scalability alone on Cardano, we would have to make compromises on decentralization. This is what other blockchains, out there, other layer ones have done, where they keep, the node set or the validator set very small. This would be like having only a small group of stake pools, 30 or so. Or, they make compromises here and there on security and make changes to the underlying ledger to focus on scaling the network high throughput, low latency. But that comes with compromises on decentralization, which is the key tenet of this entire space, and security, which is important to trust a blockchain. So this is really what Orbis is a part of a solution for Cardano to effectively solve that trilemma, that blockchain trilemma. So Orbis would fit into the picture of Cardano as focusing on the scalability aspect. Cardano can continue moving forward with its strong community, and its strong focus on technological fundamentals at the base layer. It can remain highly decentralized, highly secure, and the scalability aspect, rather than Cardano having to handle that, Orbis can handle that. So people would make their transactions on Orbis as a layer 2 solution on top of Cardano, and that's effectively what Orbis is. It's a layer 2 scaling solution built on top of Cardano, utilizing technology called zero knowledge proofs and roll-up technology. So to get it into one sentence, Orbis is a zero knowledge roll-up layer 2 scaling solution built on top of Cardano, enabling Cardano to scale to the point where it can truly support a decentralized global financial ecosystem with millions, tens of millions of users using Cardano at the same time, without having to compromise in any way in decentralization and security. Orbis would, add scalability to Cardano's arsenal.
Yeah, I suppose that's a good point as well. Sometimes people hear that the scalability can't be as massive as some of the other chains, but they don't take the decentralization aspect into account in terms of, with so many stake pools in Cardano, that's a brilliant aspect to have for decentralization, but everything that goes through the chain has to be propagated across the network as well. So if you want to be faster and faster and everything like that, then you need to obviously have compromises somewhere. So that's where things like Orbis can come into play. So, in terms of roll ups and how that whole sector works, there's probably a lot of people will be new to this terminology. Can you explain, sort of on a high level, how that works? Is it like a side chain or something where people have to take their tokens off Cardano over to Orbis as another chain, or how do roll ups actually work?
Yeah, so practically, yeah, users would have to take their tokens from Cardano over to Orbis like they would on a sidechain solution. So you'd have your ADA on Cardano, and you'd take that into Orbis, and you'd be able to use it exactly in the exact same way as you would on Cardano layer one. Orbis would practically be a Cardano on top of Cardano. The only difference being that the throughput is much higher and the latency is much lower. And the transactions, per second is far higher, or the transactions that can be settled in any given time. So once you move your ADA from Cardano layer one to Orbis, which is a layer two, you're now able to access, a much higher throughput, and be able to do, interesting things, or have access to interesting use cases that aren't available currently on Cardano, whether it's kind of utilizing micropayments at a large scale for ultra low fees, or gaming and NFT use cases, which would benefit from much more scalability, trading exchanges, effectively any single application that's on Cardano layer one would benefit from utilizing, well, would benefit from Orbis itself, as it just scales the transactions that can be settled in any given time. So a lot of benefits there. So to dig into how Orbis works, so starting off with rollups, what that means is that Orbis is off-chain from Cardano main chain. So off-chain, you would have transactions happening on Orbis, lots of different transactions. They're then bundled down into a single proof, and that proof is submitted to a smart contract. This is something we call a verifier contract on Cardano. So you're taking lots of transactions happening, let's say 100 transactions, you're bundling them into a single proof, and Cardano only has to deal with and store and verify that single proof, as opposed to going through all 100 transactions. So it's almost compressing all the activity that's happening off chain into a much smaller data point, a proof that's submitted on chain. So that's the roll-up side of things. So now the zero knowledge side of things, this is an interesting technology that Orbis uses, called zero knowledge proofs, which is an advancement in cryptography, which interestingly enough came into play in the 80s. Zero knowledge proofs, that's when it was first formulated. But it was only until the 2010s, very recently, when we saw wide-scale implementations of it, and it was actually Zcash, which is another blockchain, a privacy blockchain. Zcash were the first to use zero-knowledge proofs, and that's how they are able to achieve privacy in their blockchain. So that's one use case of using zero-knowledge proofs for privacy, that you can have a set of information happening, and you can prove to someone else that that information is true or false, or any property, without having to reveal the content of that information. And that's the zero knowledge aspect. So myself as a verifier, if I receive a proof and someone wants to prove to me that a certain statement is true or false, they can prove to me that that is true without actually having to reveal that statement, which is an amazing thing, which can be leveraged for scalability as well. where we're effectively able to provide, this proof from Orbis off-chain to Cardano that all these transactions have happened, and they've happened in a non-fraudulent way, in an honest way, and they've followed the rules of the Cardano underlying ledger, without having to reveal the information, or without Cardano having to go through all of that data. So it enables us to compress a lot of transactions happening off chain, on chain, into a single zero knowledge proof. And that's how Orbis is able to scale significantly and effectively, almost without limit.
Okay. Yeah, it definitely brings a lot of use cases there. So, and with the privacy, that's something I get asked a bit lately on. Is there a way to do private transactions on Cardano? So I suppose Orbis would be able to bring in something there as well. That would that be something that gets built on top of Orbis, or is that just by using that layer two solution itself that would give privacy or private transactions as a part of that?
Yeah, so this is something that can actually be built on top of Orbis. So this is where Orbis opens up a lot more use cases beyond just scaling the Cardano layer. You can think of Cardano as, layer one. This is the center of everything. It's why we're all here. That's where decentralization and security is handled, and it has that strength, and the community that we've been building. So that's layer one. Orbis would serve as layer two to enable everything that's happening on Cardano to be done much faster with much higher throughput and much lower latency. Now, what you can actually do on Orbis is you can build use cases on top of that, effectively layer three. So you can have these layer three environments built on top of Orbis in the same way that Orbis is built on top of Cardano. So what this opens up is you have Cardano as the layer one, you have Orbis as the general purpose layer two for scalability. Everything will be happening there: micropayments, DeFi, NFTs, all the fun that that we're having on Cardano right now would be happening on Orbis. And then the layer threes that are launched on top of Orbis, these can be application specific. They can be bespoke roll-ups where a project can come and build their own roll-up solution and launch their own roll-up, almost like their own chain effectively on top of Orbis. And one of those may be focused on, NFTs. Another one may be focused on gaming. A gaming studio may want to leverage Cardano's technology and Orbis and build their own application-specific roll-up for their game on top of Orbis. But that also, opens up privacy as well. You could build, a privacy roll-up on top of Orbis and be able to access that and leverage that to effectively bring in, this use case into Cardano in an easy way, in a highly scalable way that doesn't compromise on security and decentralization, because Orbis is linked to Cardano by a smart contract, the Verify contract. So Orbis inherits the security of Cardano. And then the layer three on top of Orbis, the application specific rollups, whether it's a blockchain gaming one, or a micropayments one, or a privacy one, or even companies coming in, large institutions may want to have a private blockchain, a permissioned blockchain, an enterprise blockchain of sorts, that would be linked to Orbis by a smart contract. So all of those application-specific rollups would inherit Cardano's security as well. And that can be extended to rollups built on top of those as well. So Orbis can effectively scale without limit into this fractal type structure of lots of different interactions between different rollups with different use cases and different focuses, all with Orbis being the center point where they settle and the link to Cardano layer one.
Okay, so yeah, I definitely think there's going to be a lot of different types of use cases out there over I suppose, the next years as people develop on top of this. And for me, I suppose an important part of this is going to be the user experience as well, in that when you nearly don't want someone knowing that they're using layer three, in terms of they want to come in, they want to use something, they don't want to have to try to move their coins across different chains in a complicated way. So I think once the user experience is simple on this, it really opens up a lot of different possibilities. And in terms of timelines, or where is Orbis today, or when would we see something like this in actually working?
We've been building for a few months now, and we are targeting late 2022 to have an MVP out. And it looks as though currently we are on track with that. And in terms of what an MVP would constitute, it would effectively be an open system that anyone can use. So users could take their ADA and their tokens and NFTs into Orbis and use it. And alongside that, applications, all the developers and projects building on Cardano would be able to build on Orbis. They'd be able to take the exact same code, in Plutus, Plutus TX, anything that can settle, down to untyped Plutus core. It's exactly like Cardano. They'd be able to launch on Orbis as well. So this initial MVP will actually have the full functionality of Orbis to be able to scale, Cardano. So it will be, an MVP, minimum viable product, but it's an MVP with the full use case that will enable Cardano to scale and everyone to leverage it. Why we're calling that an MVP is that the long-term aim is to fully decentralize Orbis in a way where the off-chain prover node, which is the node that operates Orbis, could be operated by anyone. So initially it would be operated by a single actor, Orbis Labs, ourselves, and then that would scale into a smaller permissioned group, as a step-by-step process of around 30 to 100 prover node operators, and then the system would be opened up where anyone can become a prover node operator, and that can scale. And that's the long-term goal. The final vision is when Orbis can be fully decentralized. The benefit, to make it clear as well, is that even though we would be the only ones operating Orbis initially, given that Orbis and Cardano are linked by a smart contract, this verify contract, what this actually means is that the prover node, us, has no access to those funds. So even if we go offline, or if a prover node acts maliciously, this doesn't put the user's funds at risk. They're able to withdraw their funds at any point in time. So decentralized, so from the get-go, Orbis would be trustless from the point of user fund security. So that's an amazing aspect of the system. Decentralizing the system is really focusing on making sure that if we go offline Orbis, Orbis Labs, the system continues to operate. It continues to stay live. This is the aspect of liveness. So decentralizing Orbis will be opening up the prover node to be operated by anyone. Effectively, everyone will be serving a role in a fully decentralized, distributed prover node system, so that any single actor can't go offline and take the system down. So that's the long-term aim. And additionally, the prover node will be something that's very uniform in comparison to the stake pools. So any average user could run a prover node, and the stake pools, the stake pool operators, they would also be able to run this prover node on top of their stake pool activities. So that's the final aim, when the stake pools are both, playing the strong, and great role that they're doing now in supporting the underlying layer Cardano, but also playing a role in scaling Cardano through running, a prover node for Orbis as well. And that's all very uniform through that system. So yeah, that's, our timeline, late 2022, potentially, early 2023 for the initial MVP. And then going forward would be when we move towards decentralizing the system and providing more use case for Orbis down the line as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, as soon as you are ready to open up to more prover nodes, you can definitely put my name down for that as well. I suppose another thing I hadn't considered as well is it's all going to be written in Plutus as well, is it? So everything built on top of Orbis. It's like we have Milkomeda is coming as well, but that's going to be an EVM sidechain. Anything on Orbis would need to be written in Plutus as well, would it?
Yeah. So Orbis would effectively be like having another Cardano on top of Cardano. So it would still be Plutus, all the same code that developers are writing today in Plutus. And Plutus TX can be used on Orbis, all the same tooling and functionality and the wallet infrastructure as well. Being used for Cardano can be used for Orbis as well. So strong benefits there. But in terms of other languages, that's something that can easily be extended in Orbis as well. Whether it's EVM functionality, if there's demand for that, we can easily imagine a project coming in and building an EVM rollup and actually launching that on top of Orbis as a layer 3 solution, and they can do that for anything. So yeah, the core of Orbis would be Plutus, but the layer 3 aspect and the application specific rollups on top of Orbis allow Orbis to be opened up to effectively any language or kind of virtual machine that can be built into a rollup.
Okay, yeah, it was like I mentioned earlier about the user experience, the same wallets and everything like that being used across the board will definitely help in terms of that as well. When people are used to it, if it's a simple transition over to Orbis, that will be great to have as well. And just on the prover nodes, so in some cases where there's scalability, you have to have a small number of nodes. But with Orbis, will there be a limit on that to make sure that you can actually verify the transactions across every prover node before it's rolled up, or how would that work?
Yeah, so the interesting thing with Orbis's prover node system is that it flips our idea of how scalability works in blockchain. So usually for a layer 1, if you wanted to focus on scalability and throughput, you would keep the node set or the validator set very small. On Orbis, effectively the prover node system is acting like a single global node with lots of different actors playing a role in that. And the prover node off-chain plays a role in generating proofs for the transactions and bundling them into a single proof. So it actually works the other way around in that the more actors come into the prover node operator system, the more prover node operators come into the system, the wider Orbis scales. So there's actually not going to be any limit to the number of prover node operators, because the more prover node operators come in, the more transactions can be, the more ZK proofs can be generated for the transactions, and the wider that system can scale. So this is a unique thing of building a decentralized and distributed prover node system, is that we can have whether it's 100 or 1,000 or tens of thousands, 100,000 prover node operators, and the system scales and its throughput increases as opposed to decreasing, and it's still able to do that in a way which settles quickly. It's able to reach consensus quickly, and it's able to settle on Cardano layer 1 with proofs that all of those transactions have happened in a timely manner as well.
Okay, yeah, very interesting compared to, as you say, keeping a stake pool operator subset small on chains, usually to get scalability in there. What type of time frame then? So transactions, how long would it take for a transaction to settle on Orbis? Like with Cardano, we get a block roughly every 20 seconds at the minute.
Yeah, so on Orbis, in terms of block time, the length of time that for a block on Orbis takes to settle, this is still actually being determined. So we do estimate that at the absolute maximum, it would be a few seconds for for an individual block, and at the minimum, we could expect blocks to be settling in less than a second. So it's really going from milliseconds to a few seconds that we'd expect for transactions to settle on Cardano. So that's the aspect of kind of finality and latency kind of surrounding that. So that's in that direction. And then horizontally, in terms of the throughput or the number of transactions that that are happening within that millisecond to few second time limit, that's effectively unlimited. If and it's only really determined by the size of the prover node operator system. So as we see more prover node operators coming in for Orbis, what that will mean is that the number of transactions that can be settled in that given block time will increase. So that's a strength there when we're able to, whether it's 100 transactions, within that time period, or whether it's a million transactions within that time period, they will all be able to settle within that given block time. So that's how Orbis is able to scale throughput effectively without limit and still be able to settle in a short period of time.
Something like this doesn't just get built in terms of how it's funded and everything like that. You have a Catalyst proposal in for, is it in for Fund 8? Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So we have a Project Catalyst proposal for Fund 8, the Cardano Scaling Solutions category, and that's under Orbis. And yeah, in terms of that, through our proposal, we give an explanation of how Orbis works and zero knowledge proofs and why they'll benefit Cardano, and why bringing them to Cardano will help scale the network and introduce interesting use cases, whether it's to do with privacy or more utility around NFTs, and various other use cases. So that Catalyst proposal is really focusing on us being able to scale the team and support the project going forward. So to get into the funding situation, we've been operational for a few months, and the project has actually been self-funded by the team. And now we're putting forward this Catalyst proposal to enable the team to scale and realize our vision to take us to the MVP. So we've made the request for the entire amount for the Cardano Scaling Solution category, and that's important to give us the room to support the auditing, the continuous auditing that happens as we build the system, and also to bring on the strong talent ranging from computer scientists to developers to mathematicians and cryptographers as well. Very different from a DeFi protocol, where the focus would be on smart contract developers. For this undertaking, the mathematical and cryptographic expertise is needed. So that is why we're requesting the entire amount. And given that we're requesting the entire amount, Orbis would be something that is an infrastructure point for Cardano. So everything that we build would be fully open sourced by the time that we launch. And our GitHub, which is linked in the Catalyst proposal and can be found linked kind of on our Twitter, is currently open source. So you can actually see the work that's being done and the work that our team is completing with a project board there. So that's how we're tackling the transparency as well through having our GitHub project board open as well. So that's the details around our Project Catalyst proposal, and also how that links into how we're tackling development.
Great. What I'll do is I will put the link to that Catalyst proposal down below for people who want to check it out as well. And in around the time of voting, I will make sure I talk about the timelines and everything like that. And being open source as well, I really like to hear that, because other people will look at this and get ideas as well of what else can be built on top of Cardano as well. So is there anything else before I let you go? Is there anything else we haven't covered here you think might be useful for people with regard to Orbis or anything else out there?
Yeah, I'd say if anyone wants any more information around Orbis and its architecture, I'd recommend looking into ZK proofs, zero knowledge proofs, to research into that, and also ZK snarks as well, which is the particular type of zero knowledge technology that Orbis is leveraging. And we'd be happy to kind of link to resources there, as it's introducing a new type of technology into the Cardano ecosystem. So additionally, to that, I'd say to come to our Twitter page. We recently had a Twitter space where we spoke there and answered community questions, and we'll be having a lot more of those, in the very near future. So do feel free to attend one of those and ask any questions you may have about Orbis and Cardano and what we're trying to build and how we're trying to scale the ecosystem.
That's great. I will put the Twitter link down below as well. And from myself as well, I'd definitely be interested in the resources on rollups, because a lot of really smart people I follow in the space talk about rollups being the future of scalability across most blockchains that are out there. So it's an area I really have to dig into myself. But Ryan, thanks very much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Hopefully everyone here has got a better understanding of Orbis, and we will definitely have to catch up again fairly soon on Orbis and on Ardana as well.
Thanks a lot, Paul.
All right, thanks guys for watching. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe. Questions, leave them down below. If I can't answer them, I'll pass them on to Ryan or the rest of the team as well, and we can use that as well for a follow-up interview as well. Thanks for watching, guys. I will talk to you soon.